The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. We've got a show today that I'm very, very excited about. To my far left is a brother I met about 20 years ago when I was working with Recycling Black Dollars, and he was so far out in front of the technology curve that I'm so glad to see him. We hadn't seen each other in years, and I ran into him at a fight the other night, man, and I thought I would bring him in studio and have him share with you something that I truly believe can change the game in a very important way. And we'll get into that shortly. But right now, his name is Dr. Lee L. Palm, by the way. Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, man.
Thanks, Bobby. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Yes, sir. So let's go to work. On the phone, I have a brother that I've had the pleasure of knowing for about 10 years now. And the crux of our relationship is about brilliance. He's the epitome of models of possibility, and his practices work within his field of endeavor. Mike Maxwell, welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Well, Bobby, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, man. You're one of my brothers. You're my brother from a different mother.
Well, we country boys. You know we have that in common. You from New Orleans, and I'm from Murfreesboro, so we was country before country was cool.
Bobby, I was in New Orleans for a while, but I grew up in Hammond, Louisiana. I'm talking country. We're talking kerosene lamps, a wood stove, wood heater, a foot tub, outhouse. That thing was scary. And
don't get me started.
Nowadays they call it camping. So, I'm from the country.
Yeah, that was everyday life too, Michael Maxwell. It really was. You know, I thought about you last week when the president of these United States allegedly announced at a press conference that he was making his move on prescription drugs as though that was a cure-all for everything that people are dealing with medically and as a result financially. And I said, man, I want to have somebody come on this show and give people some information that is necessary about their real condition, their real situation as it relates to being well as opposed to sick in the United States of America. So the thing is, Michael, he kept making the whole conversation about the price of prescription drugs as the only remedy to what ails you in this country and anywhere else where they sell them. And I knew from many times sitting with you that you had the understanding of what was really going on there. And prescription medication, what are your thoughts on it? What else should we be thinking about when it comes to how to take care of the most important thing that we have, and that's us, our physical body?
You know, Bobby, thank you. And I get a little emotional when you ask me that question, especially with the time restraint that I have. Because you know me, I get very passionate. I turn red when I start to talk about something that is near and dear to me. If you don't have your health, you ain't got nothing. You know, I say, what is it? Profit a man to gain the entire world and lose his health. And if you think about it, the pharmaceutical companies are the largest, most powerful, profiting corporations in the world, in America. and I can't get into everything, but when they lobby, they pay millions and millions of dollars to get the rights to bring these drugs to market. First of all, Bobby, I want to ask you a question, and everyone out there in the audience. What is the number one killer disease in America today? I know you probably know that, Bobby.
Well, it used to be heart disease.
It still is, but it used to be cancer. And, you know, it's like a horse race. Come around the clubhouse turn. We got cancer in front. They're coming to the wire. Here comes heart disease. Diabetes is making a run for it. But, see, nobody wins. We all lose. Look at the word dis-ease. There's only two states, ease and dis-ease. And we were born that this body we have is perfect. There are no incurable diseases. And you're talking to somebody. My biological father, who passed away over 40 years ago, was a neurosurgeon out of St. Louis. My mother's still alive in New Orleans, 83 years young, is a retired registered nurse. So I come from a medical family. And, you know, if you got to go to the hospital, there's an accident, if there's a birth of a child, C-section, there's certain things you got to do. But nobody, let me say that one more time, nobody knows your temple, your body better than you. So when we talk about Big Pharma, they do research and development, never for the cure. See, if they find a cure for anything, they go out of business. It's what we call managed sick care. They don't want $300, $400, $500 for the cure. They want what they call a maintenance drug. They treat the symptom. They want $1 a day for the rest of your life. But again, number one is heart disease. Number two is cancer. Now, here's the $1 million question. What is the third leading killer in America today?
Riddle me that.
There's a book that I have in front of me, Death by Prescription by Ray D. Strand, M.D. The use of prescription medication is the third leading cause of death in the United States. An adverse drug reaction is 5 times more likely to kill you than an automobile accident or AIDS.
5 times.
You hear that? And so when you do your research and say, is it a conspiracy? Maybe not. The results, much worse. Because there's a partnership formed between U.S. Congress and the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies. That's why when you go as a doctor, which is you're supposed to go out there to help people, you're trained by the medical community who's funded by the pharmaceutical company. And what that means is that they don't teach nutrition. You see, I've been sick to the point of death. Twice I almost died. Colon disease and esophageal reflux, where I threw up and basically choked myself to death. But I survived. And when you lay down with death, Bobby, and you are given a second chance, you don't look at a day of life like normal people. I'm not normal because I'm not about being in the sickness business. In fact, I love my mother, but I told her that years ago. I said, Mom, I love you. I'm a mama's boy. All that I am as a man, I owe to my mother. But I said, Mom, you were in the sickness business. And I didn't mean that as an insult, but that's what doctors and pharmaceutical companies are. They're in the sickness business. And when I look at the silent killer, there was an article way back, gosh, this would be back in 2004, Time Magazine. The front cover was called The Silent Killer. And it says, it discussed the surprising link between inflammation and heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases. Think about it. 30, 40 years ago, we didn't hear about Alzheimer's. You know, Bobby, we had a discussion before, and this is where I got really passionate. This is when I wept. Years ago when the Attorney General made the statement that the number one killer of our children in America, 14 and under, was cancer. Now, when I was back in Hammond, Louisiana, and I went to school, little Billy or Johnny didn't come to school. He may have been ditching, playing hooky at the flu, but he wasn't getting chemotherapy. So
hey, that's frightening,
what is going on with this?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Look at the food that we eat. You got GMOs. You got Monsanto. Again, big corporations. When you look at politics nowadays, Democrat and Republican, those are two eye sockets of the same skull. It made you feel that you have a choice. This is all about money. Follow the money, big corporations. So in my research, I found out that what's killing us is us. Lifestyle-related diseases. We're eating and drinking ourselves into an early grave. Add stress. Brother, stress can kill you.
No,
you know
it has killed a lot of people and made the rest of us sleep with our fists balled up.
Bobby, I almost went to sleep and didn't wake up with that esophageal reflux, suffering. See, when the spirit is not connected and in sync with life, when we're not following our definite purpose, when we're not treating the temple properly, we start to have emotional disorders, mental disorders, and it has to come out in physical disorders. That's why some people look older than what they are.
Well, Michael, yes. As you said, man, once you pop it in, it's hard to pop it out. I do want you to link the information you just shared to the outcomes of consuming in just unbelievable quantities pharmaceutical drugs in the United States.
Oh, Bobby. Wait a minute. I just looked at a statistic. Bear with me just 10 seconds because I know that you called me in short notice, but I got really emotional about this. We know there's an epidemic right now called Oxycontin, right?
Yeah.
People are dying from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The company that produces it, pharmaceutical company, Purdue, is privately owned. And their sales have gone up so much. And by the way, when you have a sales representative, or when you have a representative of a marketing company, like a company like this, they're salespeople. Some of the bonuses went from $70,000 a year to $250,000 a year. They logged in sales of $1 billion back in 2001, and everything is going higher and higher because drugs, legal drugs, is big business. Now, America consumes more drugs than any nation in the world. And I'm looking for the statistic right now.
But in the meantime, connect that point to the people at the other end of this transaction, the consumers of pharmaceutical drugs. What do these drugs do to the human body?
Can I just give you one example? Because I'm on the website of what's called Paxil. Hold on. I'm on the website of a Paxil. Can I just give you that example?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. You can go to the official website of Paxil, which is for what? It's basically for depression. You're just not feeling good. You're down. Now, this is from the website. So you see those commercials. By the way, we're the only nation in the world that sells pharmaceutical drugs on TV. Late at night, 1 out of 3 commercials about a pharmaceutical drug. You've seen them. Check with your doctor to see if it's right for you. You can't sleep at night? Try this drug. We got a pill for every ill, an ill for every pill. And by the way, the side effects are diarrhea, headache, stroke, or death. These are the side effects of Paxil. This is from their website. Some of the common side effects associated with Paxil are weakness, dizziness, drowsiness, nausea, or anxiety or nervousness, dry mouth, insomnia, constipation, diarrhea, increased sweating, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, ejaculatory orgasmic inability or delay. So don't give it to your boyfriend or your husband. Agitation, irritability, restlessness, impulsiveness, hyperactivity, tremors, memory problems, allergic reactions, difficulty breathing, swelling of your face, lips, tongue, difficulty swallowing, seizures, problems in balance and coordination, confusion, hallucination, racing or abnormal heartbeat. It is addictive. Don't take if you're pregnant. Don't take with aspirin. Can cause liver disease. And when you discontinue it, it can cause nausea, headache, muscle aches, dizziness, or electric shock-like sensations in the neck and head, but your ass won't be depressed. No, you won't be depressed. So when you look at what we're doing, we're treating the symptom with legal pharmaceutical drugs. The pharmaceutical company has one purpose. Let me just say this. Bobby, if you were the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, you're not a bad person, but you got a job. Your job, number one, is to increase profits for the stockholders. And how do you do that? By creating new drugs. And again, maintenance drugs. You want them on that $1 a day for the rest of their lives. So there are actual cases that have been done where the representatives found out that people were dying from certain drugs. And by the way, for I think it's $250,000 or $350,000, a pharmaceutical company, through lobbying with the federal government, they're able to fast-track a drug with only 2 proven tests. So you can have 40 tests where all the laboratory rats died, but 2 of them they didn't. Now you've got that drug to market. So that's why you see those new commercials at night. The ones that say, hey, did you have this problem? Did your hip get operated on? You got this? Call this attorney because we already got the money. We won the case. We need you to get that money, all the money. So if you think that you can go to a doctor, you're living wrong, you're eating wrong, you're stressed out, you're not exercising, you're going to work on that job, coming home, watching that television, and why do you think they call it television programming? And you let that temple on it, and you want to go to your doctor to have him fix it. Brother, it ain't going to happen.
Michael, that's why the next time you're able to come on the show, I'm going to expand it to, the limit of time that I have. But you're off to a running start, man. You've always had encyclopedic knowledge about wellness and dis-ease and remedies. So I look forward to having you back on the show because I know you told me you'll be back in L.A. in June. So we're going to put one together that will allow you to, stretch out like Boosie's rubber band.
Bobby, let me tell you something, man. Whenever I'm honored to be with you and people on your level, people that are changers, people that are in the transformation, it's an honor. Because I tell you something, if you don't take care of you, if you don't do it yourself, nobody will. And you and I both know that. Thank you so much. All
right then, Michael. That's Michael Maxwell, an amazing brother, Liel. And just for, I guess, prosperity, I'm going to reintroduce the brother to my left. One of the things that sets him apart is, like I said, I met him over 20 years ago in the office of the late Muhammad Nasruddin, and he brought something that was so far out in front of everything we were being exposed to at the time that he had to really break it down for me to appreciate what it is. And here we are over 20 years later, and his creation, which was allowing cell phones through source code that he wrote to expand into all of the bells and whistles we have today, And the other reason that I was excited to see him the other day after not seeing him in about 10 years is what he's doing as we speak. And here's why I hope it's good news for you. It is for me. How many times have you read, heard, or seen just outright racial injustice put upon you in places that they have supposedly another protocol and that there are implications of breaking those protocols? Right. So without making it any more difficult to understand, I brought Dr. Palm in here because there's been a lot of incidents lately. They're all the time everywhere, but, because of the modern technology that he was a part of, you get to see it almost in real time. So we've all heard these nightmarish stories about black people going in public places and getting treated like dirt. And then we'll see it on television or whatever, and nothing happens.
Right.
I'm sitting next to a brother that experienced one of those indignities, and it's my pleasure to let him speak on it, man.
Oh, thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. What we're talking about is when we as black men patronize various public accommodations, businesses throughout California, where addressed as boss or OG. This is a violation of the law. And I'm here to share this information with Bobby's listeners.
I'd really, out of all the questions on this page,
okay,
I want to know, how did you go from just being as frustrated as any of us are when we are mistreated? How did you go from being mistreated to understanding the law to the point that you were successful in presenting a case that you had to be accommodated for?
Right.
In the affirmative. In other words, you won.
Right.
Over the express violation of a law.
Right.
Just speak to that if you would.
These were cases against AT&T and ARCO. I was so upset about traveling throughout Southern California and patronizing various stores and being called boss. I started concentrating on, and the reason I started concentrating on it is because it was happening everywhere. I'd walk into a store and, hey, boss, or hey, OG. And I didn't appreciate that because The term boss, it has another meaning also, which is, it's a backward acronym, which means sorry son of a bitch. Also, OG, which we all know means original gangster. Well, I'm not a gangster. So in patronizing stores, we're being criminalized by the other man and then spending our money. Well, I started on a journey to find out a way to combat that. And I just so happened to come across a law called the Unruh Civil Rights Act. And that particular law stated
that applies in the state of California, correct?
In the state of California only. In other states, you'd have to look up your public accommodation laws to find out how you're protected. Nonetheless, the Unruh Act was named after Jesse Marvin Unruh. He's also known as Big Daddy Unruh. He was a Democratic politician and the California State Treasurer. And this particular act states that all persons within the jurisdiction of this state are free and equal, and no matter what their sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, disability, medical condition, genetic information, marital status, sexual orientation, citizenship, primary language, or immigration status, are entitled to the full and equal accommodations, advantages, facilities, privileges, or services in all business establishments of every kind whatsoever. Hello.
Yeah.
So I kept on researching, and I came across a lot of older guys and ladies, too, will remember back in the day when we used to have at nightclubs what was called ladies' night.
Mm-hmm.
And the ladies didn't have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So this young man named David Corey didn't feel as that was fair.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought suit against several business entities for discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So the trial court ruled against him. So he appealed to the appellate court.
Mm-hmm.
The appellate court ruled against him. So he appealed to the California Supreme Court.
Mm.
So the Supreme Court stated that the differential pricing based on sex may be generally detrimental to both men and women because it reinforces harmful stereotypes. The court went on to state that the Unruh Civil Rights Act prohibits all forms of stereotypical discrimination. Bingo.
So he won the case at the Supreme Court level.
The Supreme Court level.
And that set the precedent. Okay. All right. You know, all of this stuff, there's a lot of people who know it that wouldn't do any of the things that you did.
Right.
Just their makeup.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond the anger, because this is not what you do for a living.
Right.
Okay. But you took time away from what you do for a living to address this. Why did you put so much energy and focus and attention into this?
Because when you walk into a public accommodation to spend your money and to be stereotyped at the same time piss me off. I don't like that at all. So I started canvassing or basically talking to black men whenever I would get an opportunity to ask them if they were having the same was being called boss or OG when they entered into public accommodations. Over the years, I imagine I've spoken to about 300 different black men, and all of them said, yes, it's happening. When I go to the store, they're calling me boss. I don't like it. However, it's how do you deal with that? Well, the Unruh Civil Rights Act and in Corey versus Metro Car Wash, the California Supreme Court stated what the Unruh Civil Rights Act means, and it means all forms of stereotypical discrimination is prohibited in all businesses. That encompasses, now also too, The Unruh Civil Rights Act is a catch-all law. It catches all kinds of discriminatory conduct.
Mm-hmm.
So it catches the term boss and OG. Excuse me. As we know, those terms are street terms. And when we enter into public accommodations to spend our money, all street terms are to stay outside. And what is happening is that they're inside when we go into these stores. So this particular law makes it illegal, and you can take this particular claim in the small claims court. And the remedy that's available to anyone who has been discriminated in this manner is $8,000. It's $8,000 from the clerk that calls the person boss, and it's $4,000 from the clerk and $4,000 from the store or business that violates our civil rights.
So let's cut to the chase. You've actually took a case to small claims and prevailed.
No. I took it to state court.
Okay. And prevailed. In other words, you got paid for bringing these particular issues into the light. Okay.
That's correct.
Well, this is good news and on air, man. Thank you, brother, because you can't do something if you hadn't talked to somebody who's already did it. In most instances, every now and then you get lucky.
Right.
But the surest route is to follow a beaten path. So what you're saying is, if it happens to you and it really means something to you, then you get what you got coming.
Right.
And it's more than just physical and emotional satisfaction, you know. So we're going to take a short pause, and then we're going to walk back through how he was able to, in a very attainable way, provide this opportunity for anybody that hears about Leal Palm's success in being a fighter and a winner for his rights. So we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. All right, we're Black, Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men put in that work. So, brother, you went from 0 to 100, man. How did you get there?
I took the time to understand the foundation of the law in dealing with small claims court, superior court, which is state court, and federal court. And I found 3 sources.
Well, before you go any further,
Sure.
that took time and treasure.
It took time.
And treasure. These courses that you went through and all that, they didn't give them away.
No.
So it took time and treasure.
And treasure. However, it's minimal compared to what it would take to become an attorney. To become an attorney could take 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and it can cost from $150,000 on up, $150,000 up. And when you get out of law school, you're in debt $100,000.
At least that much.
At least that
probably
much.
Another,
Right.
chunk of money.
But with the advent of the internet, okay, everything's at our fingertips.
So you dug into the data, and then you combine that with, your man strength and
Right.
stubbornness,
Right.
and the outcome was.
Cha-ching.
Now, it's some of these things he can't really talk about at this point because there's some pending litigation that
Right.
he's involved in. And I really want to, again, just commend you, man, for stepping out from the pack, man, because as you said, you interviewed 300 black men
Right.
who echoed the same sentiments
That's right.
about how they get treated in the public, all right? And you multiply that by the population, and it's damn near 100%.
Of course.
And you actually went out, man, and put your dukes up, man.
Right.
And straight right, man. Speak on it, man.
And to take it on, I've had experiences where individuals, they don't know what to say when I ask them, why did you call me boss? Because I'm not your boss. And they'll come up with it means something good. Well, why are you making a distinction about my character? That's a violation in itself. I'm coming into your store to purchase a product, pay, and leave. Now, the law says, which is the Unruh Civil Rights Act, which is the supreme law
in the state of California.
In the state of California for operating a business. And where the problem is coming in is that the management and the clerks aren't being trained.
Well, they're not the only one. I mean, this is so little known.
Right.
That you were able to prevail because they had never had to devote the resources to fix that. They'd have to change these laws, literally.
Right.
But as long as these are the laws, then they got to make a choice. Do we live in a democracy or is this oligarchy?
Right.
Make up your mind.
Right.
So with that being said, there were some steps that you took.
Yes.
Part of it was education.
Yes.
And then the other part of it was persistence and stubbornness, So speak to that if you would.
For sure. When I started this journey, there were those that said, just forget about it. Just move on. Be strong. Well, I am strong. However, when someone violates me, I feel it on the inside. And it bothers me. That doesn't make me weak. Something has occurred.
And there's a remedy for emotional distress.
Emotional distress.
Yeah, especially when you can prove it.
Especially when you can prove it.
It's a beautiful conversation, man. It really is. Because this actually happened. This brother pulled this off. Speak on it, man.
Emotional distress will cause you sleepless nights. It'll make you have problems eating, neck pain, lower back pain. Your feet can even swell up. Now, these things can happen, and you may not be connecting it to the problem that caused it. Discrimination
is stressful.
It's stressful.
And stress can kill
can
you.
kill you.
Dead.
Yes. And it also contributes when you become an elder to high blood pressure, which I have as an elder. However, there's a remedy that's been on the book since 1959 to
fix this problem, basically.
Fix this problem by applying damages to those that violate our rights. Small claims court is one tool, which is kindergarten court. It's very easy to file a claim. However, you got to understand the law when you bring a claim in small claims court. It's real simple, and I'm going to explain it. Maybe not in detail on my visit here. This time,
you're coming back with the full Monty.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Because there are some little things that you really need to understand about how this actually works. It's not difficult at all. And those of us that are black, we know that when we set our minds to do something, we master it. And this is something that I would encourage those that want to
be free,
be strong, and understand that when you walk into a store, you have the power, not that person behind the counter. They don't have a right to violate your rights.
And charge you in the process. Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. However, being aware of it is why I'm here today, is to, through Bobby's program, share this information for those that are feeling it.
Well, again, the breakthrough is going from feeling it to actually
doing it.
And it didn't happen overnight. I
Right.
mean, but you had a plan, and you executed that plan. So what were some of the other elements of your plan?
Basically to help those of us that are suffering in silence behind it, not knowing what to do, to make it an even playing field. And this is what the Supreme Court of the United States set out to do, is to make it an even playing field by making us private attorney generals.
By making us, when you say us, you're talking about any American citizen.
Any American citizens whose rights have been violated.
That's what I'm saying. So that does really, literally include us, but
Right.
since it's everybody, they cannot just say, no, y'all can't do that.
Right.
If you do it, they have to honor it. That's
Right.
what you're saying.
Right. The Supreme Court. Let me read this here real quick. Briefly, I'll be brief. In the United States, a private attorney general is an informal term for a private citizen who brings a lawsuit considered to be in the public interest. The rationale behind this principle is to provide extra incentive to private citizens to pursue suits that may bring benefit to society at large. Many civil rights statutes rely on private citizens for their enforcement. So it's up to us. And we're sanctioned by the Supreme Court
Of the United States.
That's every state in the Union. The committee acknowledged that if private citizens are to be able to assert their civil rights, and if those who violate the nation's fundamental laws are not to proceed with impunity. This is what the Senate is saying.
That you just can't treat these people like this.
Right. And they're not supposed to get away with it. Therefore, they made us private attorney generals when you bring a claim. But you wouldn't call yourself a private attorney general. It's only when you're actively pursuing a claim. You are then addressed as a private attorney general. Now in state court, because small claims court is only $10,000, you can bring a claim twice a year for $10,000 in small claims court. After that, you can bring in claims for $2,500 as many times as you like. Just don't bring any frivolous cases trying to shake down people.
Yeah.
Because the courts are smart.
Yeah.
And then two, one of the questions I always get is, how do you prove it when you're by yourself in a store? I get that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's very simple. The majority of public accommodations businesses have security cameras. Therefore, as an example, if you walk into a store and someone says, "Hey, boss," use your body language. Use your body language to show that you're disgusted.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to mark it on that security camera. Now, I don't know if a lot of you may not know this, but when you're in front of a judge is reading your body language to determine whether or not you're telling the truth. This comes from a case in Ohio. It's called Terry versus Ohio. And an officer was observing a person getting ready to rob a place. And he determined that based on his body language. And this is how we got the where they can just look at you.
Well, you're turning the same law around, because if they have been able to do that based on that case, all of that time, say, look, he just looked like he was getting ready to do
There
something.
it is.
So you're saying we can turn that around with the same camera, but the expression on your face says, look, he just broke the law.
Right. And that particular footage is admissible in a court of law. Now, you can then subpoena that footage. And if the store owner destroys it or fails to bring it to court, that's called spoliation of evidence. And the court is required to look at it as though the store owner, the staff, is covering up something.
Yeah.
So it works in your favor to prove your case.
So these are just some of the procedural things. Now, he shared with me, this takes a few more details that we don't have, the span of time this evening to do, but there's some, we'll put it this way, some stuff you showed me earlier, if you don't present it exactly that way, then your case is probably going to get thrown out.
Correct. The way that you would prove your case also is that you have to plead the elements of the violation of the Unruh Act. However, there's a little trick to it. For instance, there's 4 elements that you'd have to prove. Now, a lot of people can get in trouble where if they repeat those 4 elements in their complaint, the case will get dismissed.
On a technicality.
On a technicality, because you're not telling the court facts that pertain to the elements of the violation. So, for instance, here's an example. I went into a store, and when I walked in, the clerk hollered out, "Hey, OG!" Well, I didn't like that. So I turned to him and I said, "Like that?" And he said, "You must be having a bad day." I said, "I know what that term means. That means original gangster. I'm not a gangster, and you don't have a right to address me like that when I walked in the store." Now, there was a young lady sweeping in the store. She turned to the young man and said, "What's the problem?" And the young man said, "I called him boss. No, I called him OG. I was raised with the brothers. He must be having a bad day." So I turned again and I said, "Look, I told you I'm not a gangster. You don't have a right to address me as a gangster." So he said, "Well, okay then, boss," as nasty as he can say it. So I turned to him, I said, "You don't have a right to call me that either." And then he roared, "Get out the store!" So naturally, I'm an elder. I left the store. Now, in the law, what did he actually do? He violated my right to be in the store, for one. He violated my right to enjoy all of the benefits of what a store offers. Violated that right. When he roared at me to get out of the store, that placed me in what's called a zone of danger. That when you're placed in a zone of danger, you're automatically entitled to emotional distress.
Because you are at a pace of heart rate,
right,
and other physical manifestations,
right,
of that violation. I guess
right.
It's the simplest way to put it.
Right. So then it goes into what's called the Blaine Act. The Blaine Act provides protection from threats, intimidation, or coercion, and for attempts to interfere with someone's state or federal statutory or constitutional rights. So he violated the Blaine Act on top of the Unruh Act. In addition, he violated the Ralph Civil Rights Act. The Ralph Civil Rights Act prohibits violence or threats of violence based on an individual's race. So you have two of them working there. So that's 3 violations in itself, plus negligence, plus emotional distress.
And through this process, you provided material and physical evidence through the videotape.
Through the videotape. That's correct.
Yeah, that's a stroke of genius, man. I'm telling you, man.
So this is how well we're protected when we know these laws. We don't have to resort to this or to this.
Mm-hmm. Or just having to be sick from it. You know,
right.
It really physically makes you sick.
It makes you
when
sick.
You're in that situation where what you really want to do is put hands on somebody, and you just lost your freedom in the process. Know, when you can still maintain that same edge, but execute in a lawful
manner.
Ooh, man,
in a lawful manner. And this case is going to state court. So I guess you know what that means.
It's a bigger cash register.
A bigger cash register. Because my rights were violated.
Right.
And the law says that the law will find them as long as I present the case effectively, which that's not a problem.
No, you look like talk about body language. You got that swag, like, yeah, man. We just need to get that court date.
That's all.
But here's the beauty of this, of you being here today, man.
Yes, sir.
It's just not that often, because this is some heroic and should be legendary behavior, human behavior, because so many times we just take that lick, man.
Right.
We take that lick in every imaginable way. And again, my purpose for having this show is what you are sharing with us, what's within your grasp. And I want to give my audience a little background. Other than the settlements that he won fair and square in court, he doesn't do this for a living.
Right.
You see, he has made a good living with his mind and his discipline and his persistence, and it has nothing to do with this.
Right.
Nothing. So therefore, what you're watching is an example of what can happen if you go from just being mad to being task-driven.
Correct.
And accomplishing that, man.
Yes, sir.
And again, man, I want to salute you, man, for being this physical example of the possibilities.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, how important is this in the larger scheme of things? Because I want to make one more thing clear to the audience outside of the state of California. The Unruh Act does not apply outside of the state of California. But the components of this cause of action in a court of law is available if you just do a little research
into your public accommodation laws for your state.
Public accommodation laws. That's where the same type of
information that we're discussing here now
would apply in their particular state.
That's correct.
Because the Supreme Court of the United States has agreed with the information that you have shared to the extent where if you get to the Supreme Court, it ain't going to take about 5 minutes.
Right. Then there's federal laws that deal with the same subject matter that covers every state. However, that could be another program.
It will be, so that folks can be able to first you got to know about something.
Right.
And then you got to match that with the want to.
Right. How do you go about it?
And once you know how,
It's
will
all.
you do it?
Yes, that's
You
the
see?
next thing.
Yeah, will you
Will
actually
you do
follow
it?
through on
You
it?
follow
Yeah.
through. And if you follow through, you will be rewarded. Based
In so
on-
many ways,
in
you
so
know,
many
monetarily,
ways
but more importantly, in the freedom that you have fought and won for yourself.
for yourself.
To be treated like a
Fairly.
person that need to be respected.
Right, right. We're not to be called any term in our society. Is what's common is sir and madam.
Mm-hmm.
Anything other than that is iffy.
In a civilized society.
That's correct.
Now, we were raised that way. We didn't know that it was codified.
Right.
It was like,
Right.
you know, you see an elderly person, it's how you doing, sir or ma'am.
Or ma'am.
You see what I mean? And the answer was yes, ma'am, or
Right.
no, ma'am, yes, sir, or no.
Yes.
It wasn't no debating that.
Right.
That was a foundation.
That was the foundation.
And you have found the
Laws
literary interpretation
Of that.
of what we just had a natural understanding of.
That's correct.
Man.
That's correct. And it vindicates you vindicate your rights and stop these. And each of us that do that, when I walk into that store after you got done, I assure you I will not be called any stereotypical term. And this balance our society because we're getting hit at so many levels.
You know, there's a real possibility that they're going to find a photograph of you and put it on the wall of all kind of different businesses all over the state of California. If he comes in, either treat him right or just, you know, shut the place down.
Make sure you call him sir.
Yeah.
Don't violate that
Oh
man's
my
rights.
Lord, that's a powerful tool.
It truly it's a tool that our country has given us to use to make it level, because we're not to be harmed at all. Nothing. No one has a right to harm anybody. And this is what is taking place. We're being harmed on the inside, and we need to know how to defend ourselves when it occurs.
Now, we're down to the final few minutes of the show. What does it feel like to you to know that you have went from 0 to 100 in the most American of ways? You know, I mean, that's the American way.
I feel strong when I walk into any business. Strong. I know what my rights are. I know what the law says. And if I am attacked, I handle it. And I'm a winner when it comes to it. Because it's what the law guarantees us. It's a guarantee that we will not be stereotyped in public accommodations.
You know, we should feel the same way we do when we watch the brilliance of a LeBron James.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, about what you have accomplished, because it's just as thrilling.
Right.
And amazing.
Right.
And far more important, because we can't beat LeBron James.
Right.
Kevin Durant.
Right.
Any of these freakish, amazing athletes.
Right.
But you can
have that same feeling when you understand your rights. It's important because our youth, when they go into public accommodation, they're being called these stereotypical terms. Therefore, they're being indoctrinated to accept being stereotyped. This is degrading to their dignity.
And it's gotten a lot of them killed.
And yes,
because
indeed.
their reaction to it, without the knowledge that you possess, it's that body language thing again. Because you start sending a policeman that, hey, man, I ain't feeling this.
Right.
Then he understands what's going on and how to present it in court.
Right.
I was afraid for my life.
Right.
And they have stood behind that and
Right.
went free time and time again, when visually the rest of it looked like you just killed an unarmed kid.
Right.
Because you were scared?
Yeah.
Really? And the law supports that because we haven't made it our business to change that element of the law. Because our case would be, well, where are all the dead white kids?
Right.
Where they at?
Right.
Because all the shootings that apply to this situation, they look like me, man.
In a real way.
And these other folks go home. So we got to, understand where and when to fight.
Right. And how to fight correctly in the society that we've been born into. These laws are specifically designed to protect us.
And it's up to us to call their hand on that.
Right. Legitimately through a court of law.
Really. And then we do that other stuff, because I have no problem admitting that one of my frustrations is our reaction to violations has either been to protest, march, have a meeting, then another meeting, to meet on when we're going to have the next meeting. Lord have mercy. So I ain't going to lie, man. This feels really, really good, man. It's like watching somebody sink the winner shot at the buzzer, man.
There it is.
That's some real shit, man.
Right on.
Man, I want to give you a moment just for final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up tonight's show.
Hopefully Bobby will invite me back. And when I come back, I'm going to have some ammunition to help guide those that are interested in standing up for your rights on exactly how you go about it.
I don't usually pause, but I've been a fan of the show tonight, because this is really why I do this, man. Models of possibility and best practices. They got to, both go like
that's right,
hand in glove,
right.
And it's exciting, man, to be able to give people a living example of what you can do if you know what to do, and then take the time to do it.
Right.
I want to thank once again OG Portis and brother. I done forgot your name. Man, this brother is running the board tonight. What's your name, brother? LaRon. LaRon and I have been working together since the Foxhole days, and he's now a master of his craft, and between him and Portis, they keep this thing humming to the point where we can get an opportunity to showcase people like Brother Liel.
And brother, let me just say, I really appreciate that you've given me this opportunity to share with what we both met under, which is recycling black dollars.
Exactly, yeah.
To make it a better place.
Exactly, man.
And that's what I was about then.
Yeah.
And I'm about it now.
And, the irony of what you're saying is I close out the show, the late Muhammad Ali Nasruddin worked with that brother for about 25 years, and I actually was in his office the day he died. Mm-hmm. And so to see you, after not seeing you for 10 years, the first victory is we're still here.
There it is.
You see, and beyond that, the brother brought something that I hope you have enjoyed and appreciated, and if you did, find a way to let us know and let others know that this is some important information. Yeah. Quickly.
Can I have my email address put up?
So
if someone wants to contact me for some
it's right there. It's right there, man.
There it is, right there.
Holla at the brother, man. Holla at the brother.
at Verizon.net.
Gotta get him, man. So once again, I want to thank the house, Morris Media Live, for letting me be myself again. Until next week, this has been Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play.